Harvey Guillén, it is a great pleasure to meet you. I'm Peter Canavesi. I'm actually a member of the Critics' Choice Association, which had the wisdom to recognize your work on what we do in the shadows. We'll talk about that a little later, but we're here to talk about Werewolves Within. And I wanted to start by asking, in improv, there's this concept of the game of a scene, meaning the moment in an improv scene that first gets a big laugh and the improv actors recognize, this is what the scene's about. We're going to capitalize on that idea. And it occurs to me that as a comic actor, you have to do all the things a dramatic actor does to ground the character and understand the background, but you have the extra job of finding the funny, figuring out, okay, how is this character going to make people laugh? So can you talk about finding the funny for Joaquin?
Yeah, I mean, you said it so perfectly. It's a hard balancing act, right? Because I think that the best humor comes from being grounded. With the character, you have to start with the foundation. It's just like this is the real character. Using it your vessel as what you're filling it with, and the character comes to life. But it really has to be grounded. And I wanted with Joaquin to have quirks and certain characteristics that I know from friends and people I've worked with and known for years that I really enjoyed and liked. And I said, oh, I love, him being over the top and flamboyant, but still grounded, because we all have a friend like that. We all have a family member like that. So it was fun to develop that. And he's totally different than Guillermo, who's like more submissive and quiet and endearing. And so, but which is also hard to play, because in Shadows, he's walking the tightrope of, like, he's the straight man in Shadows, because he's surrounded with vampires who are bigger than life, who just feast and lust and whatnot, and he just is holding on to his dream. So the humanity is where the humor comes. It's like we all can relate to a character that we see ourselves in, and I feel like we can see ourselves in Guillermo, and we can definitely see ourselves in Joaquin, in different aspects of him.
Now you, I understand, played kind of amateur casting director. You, in a sense, cast your husband in the movie, Cheyenne Jackson. You suggested him.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how you guys developed your dynamic as a married couple, and that also is an element of the comedy, is how the two of you play off of each other.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out really well, I think, because we haven't worked together before, and hadn't met, actually, and it was just a recommendation that I gave the director. I was like, well, what about someone like Cheyenne Jackson? And never thinking that they'd go and like ask him to do it, and they did. And I was like, well, asking you shall receive. So and the connection with him was so wonderful. He's such a giving actor, and puts himself into everything he does. And we talked about our backstory for our characters, and just developed this rapport. And just like, it was two musical theater kids too, so it was just like easy to bounce off each other. Off of set, we're like quoting musicals or this and that information, and then we were on set, it was so cohesive and linear, just connecting with them. So it was wonderful.
Now, I've heard you say that what won you over to do the movie was the director Josh's pitch to you over the phone. Can you describe what that pitch was? What did he say that made you think, yeah, I need to play this character. I need to do this part.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember getting the phone call. We were doing the TV Critics Association for Shadows, and we're just like about to announce the season 2 and whatnot that year. This was like over a year, yeah. And my friend, Francesca, texted me. He's like, "Hey, I want you to meet my friend. He's a director. I've worked with him before, and he thinks you'd be great for this part. Like, and you guys connect." And we got on the phone, and I was still there at the event. And over the phone, he just sold me on it. He just sounded like he knew exactly what he wanted, and he had a clear vision. And this is such his genre. Like, he lives and breathes this. So it's like, oh, I feel totally in the safest of hands, so I just gave into it completely. So after listening to him talk, and he was so passionate, I go off of that as well, just going off someone's energy and vibe, like, oh, they know what they want, and this sounds great because they're so passionate about it. So it was an easy sell when it came to that.
Now, did you consult on your character's look, on your costume?
I did a little bit. I thought it'd be fun to have Joaquin trying to be just bare minimalist, but like not really succeeding. And what he means by wanting to be that is that he doesn't have a full glove. He just has half a glove, because you can actually, save the earth that way. So in the choices that he made in the movie, where he was very warm because it was winter time, but he had layers of ponchos and like, just, but also ponchos that cost, $6,000 because if you're gonna wear a poncho, you have to look like, you're from the earth, but also it has to be high end. So that was fun to play with the costume designer. And I think my favorite things were those gloves, which weren't helpful when you're outside in the snow because they barely cover your knuckles. They just leave your whole palm open. So there was a lot of like redness in my hands, so I had to like warm in between takes. But it was super fun, and yeah, that one of the most iconic costume outfits I think I've gotten to pick so far.
Uh, and now, as we speak today, we have a few days left in Pride Month 2021. So I wanted to ask what it means to you to be an out actor, professionally and personally, in an industry that's still crawling toward widespread openness.
I think it's important because it's important to see someone who may look like you on screen and be aspirational. I didn't start acting to be any role model or anything like that, but if it means that somebody who is coming up and may be scared to come forward and be open about their queerness, then if it helps anybody, then that's all you can ask. And everyone comes out at their own time, but in the industry that for so long has been telling queer people that there's really no market for you if you do come out, I think that's a lie. That's not true because queer people have been here forever. You just didn't allow them to be out. You literally told them to stay in the closet and they'll continue to work. The caliber of the work didn't change. Your mentality has to change.
Mhm. Well, I do want to talk about what we do in the shadows a little bit. So, did the pandemic affect the filming of season 3 at all, in terms of scheduling and what you were able to do?
Not necessarily what we were limited to do. I think the writers did a great job of not incorporating that the pandemic existed in the world that we've created, or did it happen and it was dealt with, but it wasn't going to be like part of the script. We weren't going to be wearing a mask or talking about it, and because again, it's an escape. We're doing a comedy to make people escape and not a reminder in front of them, especially when this is going to live the longevity of this and the trajectory. It'll be weird to look at a season and be like, oh, season 3, oh, that's when they all had to, yeah. And and it's like, it always be a constant reminder as opposed to just being always uplifting and fun. And that was the whole purpose of the season. I actually felt really safe going back to work, I have to say, because we did constant testing. Every other day you were being tested on the set, and you can't go up to set if you test positive, which thank God, was very limited. But I actually felt safer going to set than I did going to the superstore, like, or the market or something, just because I don't know the person next to me. They, and they didn't get tested, but everyone on set, I could know that everyone in that room has been tested, and whatever that result is, but I know that everyone has been tested, which made me feel more comfortable going to work. And sure, it made a little bit more for, an extra step to get things done, whether it's a costume fitting or even makeup and hair, but it felt safe, and it felt like some of the things that we had to incorporate to survive moving forward, it's something that we could continue to do going forward. It's like, oh, you know what, that wasn't such a bad idea, that should always be clean, or that this is a good idea, just to go forward with like just being more hygienic.
Yeah. Now, Guillermo is a character who, you can only push that guy so far, and we've learned this. And so it's a delicate dance for the writers. Without spoiling anything, can you talk a little bit about the trajectory for him in the coming season?
Sure. You said it yourself. It's like, I think he's been pushed and pushed, and for so long, thinking that he wants something because that's his destiny, but not realizing that your destiny is your destiny because it's going to happen, whether you like it or not, and you can't control it. And so, as much as we want to have control, it's good to have a plan and good to have goals, but you really can't control your life, and you can't control the direction it may take because it's some things are out of your hand. And sometimes you got to listen to the universe, and the universe is like, look over here, you're amazing at this, you're really fantastic, why are you wasting your time doing that? And it's like, no, I really want to do this. I really want. So sometimes you got to stop and regroup and get grounded and see just listen what direction you have to go, and accept that, you know, accept your greatness, or accept your flaws as well, you know. Sometimes it's the hardest things to be honest with yourself, and so I think he's definitely going to have to be asking himself that a lot this season.
Now, like Werewolves Within, what we do in the shadows is a horror comedy. And when I binged the first season, I remember thinking, this kind of reminds me of the Munsters, just more sophisticated. You know, it's kind of a modern version of the Munsters, this horror sitcom, um, and how wonderful it is that millions of kids, you know, will have this show, this kind of fun, scary but very sweet show that'll be, you know, their memory of, you know, growing up with a horror sitcom. Anyway, relative to the Munsters, that set that you get to work on just seems like it would be a fun house to show up to all the time. Can you talk a little bit about what it's like working in that space?
I mean, that set is amazing. You know, it's just one of the best. I mean, I'd say it's the best set I've ever worked on when it comes down to detail. Kate Bunch has done an amazing job. Her and her team have created this world where we're just talking to Natasha about this. There's always something new. Even though we've been in some of these rooms, you know, dozens of times, there's always something new that you didn't see before. There's not a day that we're not on set that I look closer, like, oh my gosh, I never noticed that. Oh wow, it's like a little thing I never noticed, a little detail, or the drawing. Or in this season, we introduced some new sets. They are phenomenal. That took about 6 months to build, I think, and it's just like that's how long just to set them up. So I'm really excited for everyone to see the new sets because they are phenomenal. Like they are really like next level. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, well, I hope everyone will check out Werewolves Within, a very wonderful werewolf whodunnit, and that they'll all check out, of course, season 3 of What We Do in the Shadows as well. Harvey Guillén, it has been a distinct pleasure.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.